All right. Let's get fired up here. Hello and welcome to the next episode, as Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre might say, of Read Rothbard. You can find lessons, lectures, books, articles, all sorts of stuff, and this podcast at readrothbard.com. My name is Daniel, and as always with me is Robert Johnson. How you doing, Robert?
Beautiful, Daniel. Thank you for asking.
Did I ask how you were looking? Well, beautiful's good. You know, that's great.
Beautiful can be a way of life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to complain about, so, I mean, life is just awesome. I mean, talking about the world, that's another issue, but everything's coming up Millhouse over here.
Well, there you go. Well, congratulations. You know, a lot of people wouldn't answer that question with beautiful, so I think that makes you a little bit unique, and that's good. That's good. Everyone is individual and unique. You know, everyone's a special cupcake and a flower and a unicorn.
Thank you. Yes, I am.
Yeah. So I was referencing Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg at the beginning there, and I just happened to look at how many views his video has, and it's 137 million. That's pretty good. Pretty good.
What video are you talking about?
The next episode, Dr. Dre.
The next episode? You mean Ain't Nothing But G Thing they're talking about?
Well, the song is the next episode. I'm not sure which album it's on, but yeah.
Okay. It's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Got a lot of views there, a lot of eyeballs.
The market likes it.
Yeah. Oh, you know, I will mention, I also saw another video recently that's about 15 years old. Rage Against the Machine. They did a video that they shot on Wall Street in, downtown Lower Manhattan, and apparently it was shut down by the police, and so they have, the police are in the video shutting it down. It's kind of crazy. But I always remember listening. Yeah, music video. And it's the official music video. And I always remember, in high school, listening to Rage Against the Machine and thinking that I kind of agreed. You know, fight the power, fuck the system, it's screwing you over, all this stuff. And I guess as I've evolved in my libertarian thinking, I never really reconsidered what they were actually saying. I always thought, they're saying question authority. They're saying, all these good things, right? Well, I go back and I see this video, and it's like they're wearing, hockey jerseys from Russia, talking about how Wall Street and capitalism are bad, and they actually have a sign, someone's holding a rally sign that says Donald Trump for president, and this is back in 2001, which is kind of crazy.
As a way to, as in the video, as if this is something they support. Is that what you're saying?
No, as look at this excess of power and corruption. This is so terrible.
Okay.
Yeah, they certainly don't support him. In fact, I think they're getting back together with I think Public Enemy to form a supergroup to be anti-Trump.
Oh, okay. Well, I know The Weeknd and somebody else just decided to not go on Jimmy Kimmel because Trump was on there. Kind of amusing. Hey, whatever.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, we've talked before, not on this podcast about this specifically, but I like that he's out there disrupting things in that the political establishment doesn't know what to do about him. It's disrupting the game as normal, and it's causing a lot of people to hopefully realize that the whole system is pretty corrupt, and it's dividing people very much. It's similar to George W. Bush, when a lot of people back then said, if he wins, I'm moving to Canada. I'm hearing a lot of that again.
Yep, absolutely. But I don't know if that's I don't share your optimism. I don't think that that's what people are thinking. I think that people are thinking that just Bush. They're probably seeing him as Bush 2.0 or something like that. But just that Trump bad. And Trump bad. And Trump bad. Anybody else is good, or at least not as bad. And we got to keep to the status quo because the status quo, for some reason, isn't fucking us left, right, and sideways. Yeah. And somehow other politicians do serve the quote-unquote will of the people. And so we just have to prevent Trump from getting in. And there's been stories about how Trump is spurring all kinds of Democratic voter registration and that kind of crap, and how people are rallying to stop Trump. It seems to be more of a personal thing. The person is bad, not the system itself.
Yeah. But, I think he does have a chance of winning this thing. And so
he did.
He did just get 1238, right? And you need 1237?
Yep.
And there's 300 more to go. And those other guys dropped out anyway, but I guess they're still on the ballots in those remaining states. So, but he'll even if everyone else got all the rest, he's got it locked up, right?
Yeah, he's got it locked up.
Yeah. So he does have a chance at winning this thing, and I think that if that happens, all these people who are so upset by him, I wonder what will happen, because the alternatives are not great. Like you were saying, it's Trump bad, Bernie good, Hillary kind of bad, but in a pinch she'll do because she's not Trump.
Yes. So yeah, you get into that mindset that just this one guy is all that represents all that's bad, or he scares us, or what have you. I was just talking to a friend of mine who was in Europe, and everyone she spoke to was all worried about Trump. And there's been several news stories about the European Union leaders all worried about Trump. And heck, when I talked to a Canadian for the first time not too long ago, that's the first thing out of their mouth was, "What do you think about this Trump guy?" I don't see what the big deal is, but again, I don't pay attention to this crap. So I wish people wouldn't. I was reading some comments lately from on Economic Policy Journal. Or no, maybe it was a Facebook meme. I'm getting things confused, but probably similar.
I send you so much stuff,
You do. You send me all this crap, and it all kind of melds together. But it was a meme talking about how libertarians don't vote because taxation is theft and government is violence and don't want to associate with any of that crap. And then this other libertarian was saying, yeah, but what's your plan then for reducing theft and reducing all these government intrusions in your life and whatnot? And it seems like it's just this idea that everybody has to have a plan. Like, I don't know. You can't arrive at it organically. Like, they don't trust in the market. There is no overall plan, like a central plan to get groceries to your table. It happens organically. People have an incentive, and they get rewarded for providing that service. And then, voila, the market provides these groceries for you to purchase. And they're not oppressing you by providing these groceries, despite what some ANCOMs might say.
Yeah, I like that meme.
Yeah.
Quit oppressing me with all these options. Trying
Market.
to service my needs.
Capitalism. Yeah. Real bad. Real dumb. Just real dumb. So there's this idea that, whenever these politicians say that I'm going to do this, X, Y, or Z, people are like, well, what's your plan? And I guess that's a decent question to ask. But when you say that libertarians aren't doing anything to improve the lives of other libertarians or even their own lives by not voting, I balk at that. I say, by living your own life as freely as you possibly can, you're not aggressing against other people. You're living by example. You are, by participating in the violent system, are you really? You're legitimizing it. You're legitimizing the use of force. You're not, even if your intentions are good, like John McAfee. He's like a weird unicorn type creature, like this anachronistic unicorn where, and I mentioned this before to you in chat, but you got this guy saying that violence is bad, and he's, sounds great, and he's all about the NAP, but then he's like, elect me, use violence to elect me to this violent system so that I can reduce the level of violence in your life. It just strikes me as a little bit hypocritical or contradictory. I don't know if there's such a thing as an ethical plan that, I guess everybody could jump on board voluntarily. But if you're talking about political action, you're talking about force by definition.
No, I agree. And I agree to a point that, yes, it does involve force. But, I kind of have a lot of comment on this. So I was at the Mises event in Seattle this past weekend, and they actually asked the audience, just quick show of hands, who intends to vote in this election. And it was, maybe a third to a half of the audience raised their hand. And they asked, okay, you're going to vote for one of the major parties or a Libertarian Party? And, it was mattering between those two. But, the other half were like, voting is immoral and wrong and all this. So I think it's not a clear decision in a lot of people's minds. Even Murray Rothbard argued that if the state's going to be stupid enough to leave us an avenue of having at least some amount of voice, we should use it as much as possible to reduce the impact and curtail the state as best we can.
But that could be handled through the free market. Information can be done and produced and created and distributed through nonviolent means. You don't have to go through the violence of the state to do that.
No, I agree. I agree there. I think that Ron Paul came out and used it as a vehicle for education, as a platform to get his message heard. But he did get elected, like a dozen times or whatever, and then run for president 3 times. So, and that's a practical argument. But I wouldn't be here today without him. And as we discussed before, I've influenced your thought a fair amount, and so it kind of trickles that way.
Yeah, I give all props to Paul. I once upon a time I would have voted for the guy, but it's like we say, minarchism lasts for about 6 months. I mean, even though in some people it's a lot more, but I attribute my a lot of libertarian thoughts to Paul and the origin of that, but I wouldn't vote for the guy. I appreciate him getting some of those thoughts out, but you get a certain amount of free press. I understand that, and that's a decent thing, because apparently that's the only news story in town is the election.
Yeah, every 4 years for about a year and a half.
yeah, every 2.5 years. It's like, whatever.
Here we go again. More promises that will be broken. Yeah. It's like, who actually does what they say they're going to do? Nobody. And I guess that's a good, if you're ready to segue a little bit. As you know, Walter Block, who was also at the Seattle event, he started a Libertarians for Trump advocacy group just so that, to support him getting the nomination, because he's better than the other guys. He's the least bad.
So he's taking the pragmatic argument.
Yeah, he's saying, okay, you got Daddy A over here saying he's going to whip us, like every day, and you got Daddy B over here saying, well, he's only going to do it once a week. So, given our druthers, who would you pick? That's his argument.
But that's the same argument every statist makes for every candidate. They all think it's better than the other.
It's not a very good argument.
Yeah, it's a terrible argument.
Because
it really is. It's all based on his perspective that A is better than B.
Right, and it takes what they're saying at face value. You don't know what A and B are actually going to do. It could be that A says he's going to do it a lot and he doesn't, and it could be that B says he won't do it very much and he does it all the time. You never know.
Exactly, which is why you can't have a government.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you can't trust anybody. You give the reins of this massive power to any given person. It's ridiculous. He really said that? I mean, I've had my issues with Block over the years, but he's really making this pragmatic argument that, hey, my subjective guy is better than these other people, and please get along and let's do this. Really?
Well, he's merely saying for the nomination, not supporting Trump for president. He was originally on the Rand Paul bandwagon, and then Rand, of course, his wheels fell off because he didn't stay on message. And apparently Block is, doing a similar thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Walter Block. I agree with him 95% of the time. It's just on a couple of issues like this one where I disagree.
Yeah, I also take issue with the type of Mary one, but that's a big old long discussion we can have some other time.
So do we want to just cut to the chase, this being episode 3, and just come up with the solution? Robert Johnson, what is the solution? What do we do? We don't vote, right? What do we do?
We live our lives.
You alluded to it.
We live our lives. We raise our children peacefully. We are successful. We provide service to our fellow man. And we don't aggress against anybody. And we talk about it when we can. And I would argue that we disseminate our message peacefully in a market-driven way.
Similar to this podcast? Wink, wink.
Similar to this podcast, to hopefully my book, to, the message of freedom is quite popular. You were showing me that website, Time to Free Us.
Great stuff on there.
A lot of really good stuff. One of the ladies that is on there wrote a piece that kind of was like whining about censorship in the media, which seemed odd to me, but a lot of other great stuff. Let's see, did I have a point there? I did. She had an article about the Game of Thrones premiere, and she was making the point that a lot of the symbols and the people that we're drawn to in life have a very anti-authoritarian bent to them. A lot of heroes, like, say, for example, Robin Hood, who stole the tax money back and gave it to the people that the government stole it from.
I love how the sheriff of Nottingham was the bad guy.
Yeah, so just the idea that freedom is sexy. And if we could wrap our message into that, give it some sex appeal, I think it can be successful. So,
well, didn't Ayn Rand do that, but maybe go a little too far? I mean, a lot of Atlas Shrugged is a little steamy,
There is a fair amount of romance in that book, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of her characters are very idealized. No, that's the good stuff, man. You get into that. I was a big-time romance pusher in that book. Heck yeah, man. But, I think it is sexy. And I wouldn't call my book sexy. But I think that people are drawn to anti-authoritarian people. And even people who claim to be anti-authoritarian or have problems with authority will call for greater state control or what have you, claim to be like revolutionaries or call for revolution or what have you. And I think that they need to see the contradiction there. It's like the saying that, in the heart of every revolutionary beats the heart, or in the chest of every revolutionary beats the heart of a bureaucrat.
Or a dictator, right?
Yeah. It's just that idea that, I have a problem with authority, so I should be in charge. And I think you'd realize that, nobody should be in charge. You don't have the right to be in charge. You don't have the right to tell anybody else how to live their life. Even if you could, even if you thought you had the best idea of how another person should live their life, you don't have the right to. And chances are you don't know what's best for another person. Look at your own life. Is it really that great? Do you really know what you're doing? Do you really have the right ideas of even having to live your own life?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously people have been put through a meat grinder of public education and indoctrinated heavily, not only through the schooling system, the government schools, but also what they see in many media type things, to sort of accept things that aren't necessarily true and to distort things. It really is the Orwellian, war is peace, and there certainly is a memory hole. A lot of stuff is kind of getting glossed over and pushed away. I was telling you the other day that a lot of the content that I have on the Read Rothbard site is sourced from YouTube, and one of the sources has decided to remove many of the Rothbard's talks, and they're not available anywhere, and so they're gone right now. I've been trying to contact him to see if he can turn them back on or whatever, and then I'll download them down and put them on my own channel, the Read Rothbard YouTube channel.
Which is what you should have done in the first place, by the by.
Yeah, well, now I know. It's a learning process. Because YouTube's got so many things on there, you just think, oh, YouTube will host it forever, and so I don't need to download it, upload it, use a bunch of bandwidth,
And there really aren't any mirrors or any kind of other duplicates? These are just unique ones?
Yeah, apparently they were only on one channel, and there are other, other talks, like the Mises Institute has some, Liberty Pen has some, a few other places have some, and then there's also loads of audio content on Mises.org. And so I've got all of that grabbed down, and I'm going to be posting that to the Read Rothbard YouTube channel and the readrothbard.com site as video over the coming weeks.
Very
if this, it should be good. If it's starting to round out, there's lots of content on there now, and it's only going to increase. And actually, the Facebook page is getting a little bit more use. Like people are actually going there and signing up, liking it, engaging with some of the posts. And
what Facebook site would that be?
Oh, this is Read Rothbard on Facebook.com. So it's Facebook.com/Read Rothbard Club, because somebody took /Read Rothbard as a name and it's just like some guy in Thailand or something.
Right on. Thailand people living free, baby.
Yeah, he's got a picture of a crocodile. He's holding a crocodile on his profile picture. If you go to Facebook.com Read Rothbard, you're going to see the crocodile. If you go to readrothbard.com and link out to our Facebook page there, it'll go to Facebook.com/Read Rothbard Club.
Okay, sounds good.
That's where you'll find the real stuff.
Straight dope.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to mention, just a plug for this. There is a prolific poster of libertarian and anarcho-capitalist memes called Anarchy Ball. And I mean prolific, like dozens and dozens and dozens of things every day. And in sad news, just a few weeks ago,
right when you started talking about Anarchy Ball, it started crashing.
Okay, so we'll pick it up right there.
Yeah. So Anarchy Ball is a prolific poster of anarcho-capitalist memes, you were saying?
Yeah, tons of good stuff there. That's where a lot of the stuff I've been sending you has been coming from. And he has gone through a very challenging event recently. His son, who was only 15 days old, did not make it. And so in his memory, he and his wife have put together what's going to be a lending library of pulse oximetry monitors to loan to expecting parents so that they can test and hopefully prevent a tragedy happening to other parents. And so there's a post on the Read Rothbard Facebook page that links out to the youcaring.com site where people can go in and donate. And I'll put the link in the show notes for this page or for this podcast. But it's a worthy thing to support, and it kind of answers that question of, without the government, who would take care of charitable things, who would help prevent tragedies like this from happening. And, there's the answer. It's people who've been affected going out to their community and coming together to try to make a difference and solve the issues.
Yeah, the answer is you. The answer is you. The answer is the people that care.
So I just want to mention, we did donate a little bit of money to that cause. I think it's a good one. And I love the kid's name. Their son's name was Lysander, after Lysander Spooner, I imagine. Great name.
Author of No Treason, one of the great all-time libertarian texts. If you haven't read it, give it a chance. Do it. It's awesome.
Yeah, also available as an audiobook, I think, read by Jeff Riggenbach, which is he's a great reader. He's like the Morgan Freeman of the libertarian audiobooks. Nice. So I didn't mean to go into a downer there, but I think it's important. They're just over 10% of the way to their goal. So any additional publicity, I think, is helpful there. Absolutely. That's a terrible tragedy. It was SIDS, right? The sudden infant death syndrome? Yeah, I don't know a whole lot of details. They just say that he was 15 days and he unexpectedly passed away. And this is a monitor to alert the parents if a child suddenly stops breathing. Is that what it is? Yeah, I believe so. I'm going to have to look into exactly what it is, but it's intended to give a warning if there's the signs of that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So to help prevent it. Just look it up right now. Pulse oximetry is a test used to measure oxygen saturation of the blood. It's an easy, painless measure of how well oxygen is being sent to parts of the body furthest from the heart, such as the arms and the legs. So I don't know a whole lot about SIDS and things like that, but apparently being able to identify whether there's blood being oxygenated in their extremities is an indicator that they need to be careful or not. I see. Yeah, definitely good to know. So, yeah, anyone listening, feel free to learn about it yourself. I've got 2 young kids personally, and thankfully we haven't had to worry about this type of thing. But I did have another friend that I do know who had something happen with his son who was just about 8 months old, and I think that's one of the things you just never get over. So, absolutely not. Anything that can be done to raise awareness of, how to prevent it, and creating a lending library of these monitors especially for people who can't afford it. But without, a gun in the room, making it be provided, I think is a good thing. Absolutely. Forced charity is not charity at all. No. And in fact, segueing, it reduces the amount of charity that happens because people assume that it's already taken care of because they've already been taxed and told that there's programs out there helping people. So. Right. Yeah. So there's that. Yeah, absolutely. So let's just bring this around back to we were going to solve all the problems by episode 3. So you're basically saying... Wait a minute. When did we make that claim? Did we? Well, what do? You don't do politics. That's right, I don't. You live your life. You provide value for value. Yep. Do you support, like, the agorist ideas, like avoid the state as much as possible, work around it, work away from it? Of course, not getting yourself on their radar or in trouble, but minimize the harm and their impact on you. Absolutely. What about an approach I've taken, which is not taking things that are offered to you that you may qualify for, but avoiding that, not taking those things. There was a period of time when I had quit my job and I was technically unemployed for a little while, and I could have gotten unemployment, and I could have gotten free health insurance for when my wife was pregnant with our first child, but I declined those things. I didn't do them. Right. And I think it's admirable. You're living your principles. It's the pragmatic approach to say, hey, I qualify for this. Someone's giving it away. I might be you could look at it as, say, you're recouping some of your lost tax revenue. But like you said in the past, that's already gone. That's a sunk cost. That's already been stolen from me. Anything I would be doing now would just be stealing from other people. Right. It's like Social Security. That money's already gone. Like my mother-in-law, she just retired, and she's accepting Social Security, and I've sort of tried to broach the subject with her, and she's like, well, I put all this money in, so I'm just getting it back out. I'm like, well, that money's already gone. And so just because that money has been stolen from you over many years, does that give you the right to then have money stolen from other people today given to you? Right. And then that is the moral and that is the ethical way to go. I hate this argument, but this is, the pragmatic approach when dealing with people that have lived their entire lives one way, to then turn around and say, well, now you should probably, what about living morally? And they're like, well, I didn't prepare to live morally. I prepared to accept this money from the government, when I retire. So it's nice that you're able to live ethically and within your principles, but I'm not in a position to be able to do that. And I find it hard to judge someone that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I agree. And that ties back to the indoctrination. They're told, oh, your retirement's going to be, primarily taken care of. You don't need to worry about it, So go ahead and make some decisions you probably wouldn't have otherwise made. Right. You're counting on that money. Yeah, at the Seattle event, Jeff Deist, the president of the Mises Institute, he was one of the first to speak, and that was one of his points, was that Social Security promises that there's going to be some money for when you retire. Do you think that affects the decisions that people make, throughout their lives? Like, with Social Security, maybe I can afford that Mercedes, but without it, having to plan for your future, realizing that there isn't necessarily going to be a safety net there. Not to say that there couldn't be in a voluntary society, but not counting on one. Maybe you don't, go on those more expensive vacations and buy the more expensive car. Maybe you buy something that is just more in tune with your income level and your time preference. You're going to make different decisions.
Absolutely. Like we said in the past, government corrupts and discolors everything. It changes people's behavior in drastic ways. It's
enabling. Is what it's like when my brother was a deadbeat for a little while, right? And he's great now, but when he was a deadbeat, he would ask for money for food or for rent or for things like that, or sometimes he'd live at home again. Mm-hmm. But all that does is allow him to then allocate whatever other money he has to whatever bad things he wants.
Right.
Yeah. Which is like the food stamps thing. Like, sure, you can't necessarily directly spend food stamps or EBT or whatever on these bad things, or even frivolous things like tattoos or alcohol or whatever, entertainment. But because the bread and the milk and the cheese are now taken care of, whatever money you do have can now be spent on those things. Absolutely right, Matty. You said it, man. It absolutely enables. It's like, what do you I'll take a Walt Williams quote. I think it's Walt Williams. It might be Thomas Sewell. But, you subsidize what you want more of. You want more corn, you subsidize it in this country. You want more poor people, you subsidize it. You pay for what you reward, you pay for what you want more of. So and I guess that's where we come off as sounding incompassionate, that we don't want to violently attack people to support poverty. But the whole idea of it being a war on poverty is a complete joke. The idea that welfare somehow lifts people out of poverty is an absolute misnomer. It does the opposite. It encourages poverty. It creates poverty. Well, certainly go ahead. Oh, yeah, and you couple that with the minimum wage, which basically makes it impossible for people to get a job who, don't have skills that are worth that, whatever that bar is, however high that bar of the minimum wage is. If they don't have the skills to provide value for an employer that's going to bring in more money than that, or even that amount, even if it were equal, they're not going to get the job. And so that's another part of, keeping them in the poverty area. Right. It absolutely keeps you down. It sounds like a great thing, but it keeps the lowest skilled labor down, unable to join the workforce, unable to work their way up. It takes away the bottom rung of the ladder. Yeah. So it creates a dependency class. So what are your options? Crime, the army, which is crime, and welfare. Well, and non-crime, though it is technically criminal, the drug trade. Which will get you landed in the prison system jail, yes, which is non-crime. But it creates violence by having people essentially violently fight each other for territory. Yeah, it sort of funnels them into those areas, because you've got the minimum wage and you've got the welfare. So that's keeping them from getting traditional jobs and skills. You've got terrible public schools, so they're not learning much of anything of value there. And then you've got criminalization of the drugs, therefore making it like a higher-priced market for them. There's certain there's more risk, and it's harder to get certain things versus if it were, not an illegal type thing, if there wasn't like a law enforcement coming after people. So it drives the prices of those things up. Yeah, right. You're artificially reducing the supply. You're increasing the demand, or you're not increasing the demand, but you're shrinking the supply, which drives the price up. Right, which thus incentivizes people to get into that trade because, I can't get a job down the street at the restaurant, but I can do this thing over here that's very lucrative. And the guy that's buying drugs isn't necessarily checking my references. So. Right, yeah. So it's funny how that all works. They're dissuading you over on this side to do something good, and they're sort of incentivizing you over here to do something bad. It's kind of weird. It's a little weird. Yeah, and you see all the massive disparity in the people being arrested. You could argue that it's a very racist tactic, but it's really just more of a classist tactic, I suppose. Yeah. Well, I hate to cut this short, but I've got to head in. So is there anything you want to plug at the end here? Or you had mentioned before that we should close out the show a little bit better. Well, just to talk about, just making some plugs. Plugging, like I could plug my book, which is hopefully going to be out sometime this year. Let's plug this book. Which is a new action-adventure story called Kit Tamarack, Wizard for Hire. And it's a working-class wizard
that just wants to service his customers and get home at the end of the day, but I am a jerk and I throw all kinds of problems in his way. And one of the main problems is a new law that the government enacts that essentially allows kidnapping. So anyway, look for that hopefully at the end of the year.
All right. Well, I think you can plug that on future shows and maybe give a little bit more each time, like you can get a little sneak peek every time.
Maybe I will, Daniel.
There you go. So come back next week, folks. You'll hear a little more. Yeah. And you'll have to wade through all of our bullshit to get to that. But, we wouldn't be doing a podcast if we didn't want you to listen a little bit.
That's right. Do you have anything else to plug, Daniel? ReadRothbard.com.
Just ReadRothbard.com. We've got the Facebook page. We've got the YouTube channel. We don't tweet, so there's no Twitter. We don't do any of the other there's like a plethora of these things. These social media. It's too much. It's too much.
It is. This is too much. Maybe I'm going to need to get into it to promote the book, but yeah, I'm not on Instagram. I don't tweet. I barely have a Facebook page. I'm going to have to create all that stuff, plus a website. So it's going to be a little bit out of my element, but we'll see what I can do.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for joining me, Robert, and thank you, listener or two. We really appreciate it. Do check out the links on the page that you'll see down below of this podcast, and do consider donating to that cause for Young Lysander. And thank you guys very much. We'll catch you next time.
Take care, everybody. The Chipmunks. CHIPMUNK. We're the Chipmunks. Guaranteed to brighten your day. Do 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 do.